Later on, Bruce Miles took on the directorship, and that was an entirely new world. And I got closer into the director's office at that time. I worked for him directly as associate director. Later on in the 90s, he asked me to come into the director's office, and I became assistant to the director. And I got to know him on a professional level then. And I saw then and endured and hopefully helped carry the burden of what it is in the director's office. And to see him take on what he had to take on. We lost an employee, Roland Lambert, out of Linden, burned to death in a tractor on fire duty. Mr. Miles carried that weight and that guilt through his whole time because it happened on his watch. He was so personable with all employees, every last one. He knew their dog's name and would not forget. He's got a great memory. The staff loved him agency-wide, and I believe still does today as a retired director emeritus. And he carried the weight not only of that, but that was when the agency was only in East Texas primarily, and we had 5 areas and departments, but we were called out west because fires got so large. And of course, the agency is going to respond, but we did it without the structure. We didn't have the funds, and we didn't have the structure in place to help. It depleted the entire budget, the agency budget. He had to struggle, beg, borrow, whatever, with the legislature, with the system to help fund us because we were working on negative, and nobody even believed that, I don't think. He worked so hard to get that done. That was heavy on his shoulders, too. He developed a great relationship with Chancellor Barry Thompson, and that helped him tremendously in the legislature. We saw him struggle over and over. When you're in the director's office, you see, once they cross the door and come into the suite, that the burden is on their shoulders. You see it, they sometimes talk to you, you know the weight that they're carrying, and yet when they walk out the door again, it's with a smile again, and it's going to be okay, and that has to happen so that the staff will be okay. And it will be okay. It just all takes time. But that director carried those burdens so heavily. He had so much. Not only that, I believe it was in the early 90s, we had what they call a RIF, a reduction in force. He had to totally do away with the department, Information and Education. Not only that, several employees throughout the agency, he had to RIF them too. Carried it tremendously, could not hardly deal with it. And I don't blame them because it affected employee lives, and that was hard on him. He cared so much about his staff.